this online meetup by Google Developer Group Reading and Women Tech Makers Reading. Thank you for tuning in today. We really appreciate your time, and thank you for joining us. We are really excited, and we hope that you will enjoy the lineup we have here for you today. Let me introduce ourselves. So I am Ashnita Bali, and I am one of the Google Developer Group Reading organizers and also a Women Tech Maker ambassador. This is my very first time hosting an online meetup. So I am super excited today to have Sherry List, the wonderful Sherry List from Copenhagen, who's here to take care of the production and also to help co-host with me. So hello, Sherry, and thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you very much for having me, and I'm super happy to be part of this event, and so excited to listen to the talk that we have today as well.
So yes, so we have. Before we get started, let me just share the agenda with us. So we are really fortunate today to have Wagner Maciel, who is a team member at the Angular team. He will be talking to us about Angular Universal basics and the latest features. It's a really exciting topic, and I am really looking forward to seeing all about the latest features. And after that, we have a fun quiz lined up on Kahoot. It's a really fun platform, Kahoot, so we hope that you'll all join us. And then, so we have quite a simple agenda today, and we will finish off after the Kahoot. So without taking up too much of the time then, let me introduce everybody to our speaker. So hello, Wagner. We have our speaker today is Wagner Maciel. He is a software engineer at the Angular team, and besides Angular, he loves playing the guitar. He likes snowboarding, and he also likes to volunteer at his local church with his wife. So everybody, please give a nice warm welcome to Wagner.
Hey, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Today, I'm going to be going over the basics and the latest features of NgUniversal. And these are the latest features that came out with version 9. So let's jump right in. So first off, what is NgUniversal? I recognize not everybody here is going to know that. So NgUniversal is a toolkit that allows you to do server-side rendering and also now pre-rendering for an Angular application. So why use server-side rendering? Really, there's three main reasons why you'd want to create a universal version of your app. The first would be to show the first page quickly. Like there are a ton of metrics about this, about how important this is for end users, but the user experience is critical to it. And it's a game of milliseconds, so every performance improvement counts. The next thing is improving performance for weaker devices. So if you have a lot of scripting going on in the browser, then you're really depending on the capabilities of the end user's device. And if somebody's using a mobile device or a really old laptop, then they might not have the greatest experience. The last reason why you'd want to create a universal version of your application is to facilitate web crawlers. We'll be able to see this a little bit more clearly later on when we do a demonstration, but web crawlers really depend on seeing all the HTML, CSS, JavaScript in the browser. And if all of that is being loaded in or rendered at runtime, then it can be difficult for basic web scrapers to detect what's going on. And without further ado, let's jump into a demo. So I have a basic Angular application here. This is just what you would get by running ng new. The only thing that I've changed about this application is I've added a script here, which is going to log the value of the first contentful paint to the browser. So however long it takes for that to happen. And there's a more verbose way to do this here, but for this demonstration, this is fine. But if you're going to do performance tests, please don't use the script. And so I'll just start this up. First off, I'm going to run ng-add at NgUniversal express engine. And this is going to install the NgUniversal schematic to our app. And what that means is it's going to create a couple of files. It's going to update a couple of existing files. And this is going to allow us to do server-side rendering and pre-rendering. So we're going to give this a second to install packages. And while this is installing, I'm going to show really quickly what this is going to do. It's just going to say first contentful paint and then the start time. And now that this is up, I can run. I'm going to actually spin up one regular version of the app. So this is npm run start. That's just a standard application. And I'm also going to run. This is a new command that was given to us by NgUniversal. So npm run build SSR, which is going to build our server-side rendered application, and then npm run serve SSR, and that's going to start up a simple server that serves our content. And so this is going to take a little while to build because it's building our whole application. But in the meantime, we can check out the standard application that will close 4200. So if I jump over to the browser, the localhost 4200. First thing that I want to mention, that I want to pick up on here is how long it takes for the first contentful paint to appear. And if I do a couple more refreshes, we see it's about 300 milliseconds for that first contentful paint. And this is for the very, very basic Angular application. Again, this is just what you get when you run ng-new and just create a basic app. The next thing I want to show really quickly is, If we go to the performance tab of our dev tools and we start profiling the page, give this a second to load, we see that there's about 200 milliseconds of scripting. And I'm going to take a second to juxtapose this. Let me see if this has finished running. Yeah. Let's just compare this really quickly to a server-side rendered app. So go to localhost 1000 instead. We see only 200 milliseconds, and if I do subsequent loads, only about 100 milliseconds as compared to the 300 milliseconds that was going on for the standard app. And now if we take a look at the scripting going on this app, I go to Performance tab and start profiling the page. Again, give this a minute. We see only 83 milliseconds. And again, this is such a basic application. The more complex your app is, the more of a performance boost you're going to see. And again, the scripting that we see here is going to impact low-powered devices. So mobile, crummy laptops, they're all going to see a major boost in performance. And the last thing that I want to demonstrate is the change in, I can actually close this, the change in what web crawlers will see when they visit your page. Now, this is localhost 4200, so this is the standard application that you get. So if I inspect this, if I view the page source, I see almost nothing here. This is like basically the head tag and then just app root, and nothing inside of app root is here. If I go back to the page and we take a look at the elements, we see that there's so much more going on inside of app root. There's divs, there's, I don't know, buttons, there's all of our app is here. And so a very basic web crawler will not be able to look at this and quickly understand, oh, I know what this app is about. They're going to look at it and just see app root. Now, if we look at the server-side rendered version of this, because all of the rendering is going on on the server and then just being served statically to the client, if we inspect this or if we take a look at the page source, we see that there's a lot more going on here. So this is all of the CSS for our app. Here is app root with all of the divs and all the buttons and information. We see the word Angular blog. So a web scraper would take a look at this, find all these keywords and get a better understanding for what's going on inside of this app. This might look like a garbled mess of text, but to a web scraper, this is critical information, and it can really boost your ranking in a PageRank algorithm. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the basics of how to install and run like an NgUniversal app, how to create a universal version of your app. I just want to mention before I move on that if you have an older version of the schematic installed, say version 8, version 7, you can just run, instead of ng-add at NgUniversal/express engine, all you would do is change this to say update. And then it would update your schematic to the latest. You'd have all the new tools. Great. So moving back, let's talk about the latest features that came out. The first one that I want to get into is live reloading for server-side rendering. So live code reload, it just automatically recompiles the client and server bundles, and it live reloads the browser. So what this means is instead of you making a change and having to kill your server and recompile it all manually, it actually just does it by itself. So we can take a look at this really quickly. It's as simple as running npm run dev ssr. It's just another command that comes out of the box with NgUniversal. Again, you're going to want to heed this warning. It hasn't been tested for security issues, and also the performance of this is not as good as running npm run build ssr and serve ssr because we have a whole server up and running. But it is great for the developer experience. So let's go to localhost 100. I can close these guys out. And again, looks like a standard app, but we can see by inspecting, viewing the page source, that this is in fact a universal version of our app. And we see all the content that a web scraper would want to see. So this is great. It's a universal version, but let's try out the hot code reload. If I go to, say, a component, I'll hide this. I'll go to a component, and if I want to say, instead of app is running, I'll say app is running with live code reload. Save here, we'll see shortly. Yeah, that the browser refreshes on its own, makes the changes. And again, this is huge for the developer experience. It just makes it such an easier time debugging and building your application. So really focused on developers in this feature. The last feature that came out with version 9, there were two major ones. The first was live code reload, which we just demonstrated. And the last one is pre-rendering. Now, pre-rendering, you generate all your static pages at build time. So while everything is compiling, you then render using your compiled server, and you save that all to the file system. And that way, all the latency of server-side rendering won't happen like over the network. It won't happen at like when the user requests, but it'll happen just when you build, and then you send it up to a CDN. And you lose that. You don't have to worry about that latency, that added cost. And this is the final demo for this presentation. For this demonstration, I wanted to do something a little bit more. Oh, sorry. Let me kill this server before I move on. And I have multiple servers running unnecessarily. So to demonstrate the pre-render, I have a little bit more of a complex application here, but it's a too. Basically, we're taking whatever URL you go to, so localhost /123, and it retrieves that slash something. In this case, it would be just numbers. All these IDs are just numbers, and there's about 800 different Pokemon that we can retrieve from this database. So these IDs can go from localhost /1 to localhost /800 and everything in between. And all that's going to do is it's going to retrieve a Pokemon object and show its name and the image associated with that. So to get a feel for this, a better feel for this, let's just spin up a standard app, npm run start. And let's just get a look at what this application is meant to be. Great, compiled successfully. Localhost 4200. Great, and this is the application. Welcome. It says the name of the Pokemon, and if I go to /3, we see Venusaur. I don't know, go to 100. See this all the way to something like 800 Pokemon that we can go through. Now, this is a super great use case for the pre-render builder, because all these pages, you don't need to like render this every time a user makes a request. You can just render these all one time, save them to your file system, and then serve those as static pages. So we're capable of doing that now, right out of the box with NgUniversal. Before I get to the command for doing this, I want to show inside of angular.json how you would set this up. If I scroll down here, we have routes. Inside the pre-render options, we have routes, and it's an array right now. And you see I have 2 and 3 defined. And now if I go and I run this, I'll run npm run prerender. That's the command that's going to spin up your server. It's going to basically do npm run build SSR, and then it's going to use that compiled application to render all those routes that we defined there. And we'll see that as output to the terminal. We'll see all the routes that got saved. Give this a second to build. I know this build time is linear, but the actual pre-rendering is very quick. Yeah. So we see 2, 3, but we also see 1. Now I want to get into why that is, that we also got the route 1 pre-rendered. If I go to our application, I want to go to the routing module. We see that I explicitly define this route. I say path 1, and it's a path match full. So behind the scenes, the pre-render is using the guest parser, which is a tool that, thanks to Minko and some other great developers, it is able to figure out what routes are part of your application. So you don't even have to specify. If you have your routes like all defined here, you don't even have to specify them here. Yeah, so you just get those. And if you want to view this, or maybe if you want to test this, you're using Protractor, you would just do npm run serve SSR. Remember, I don't have to run build SSR here because the pre-render builder has already done that for us. So if I run npm run serve SSR and I go to, now it's localhost 4000, it'll look the same, right? And it is the same right now. But if I go to /index.html, we can see that this page was pre-rendered with Angular Universal. And quick note here, users, if you are using a CDN, users will not have to do /index.html to get your pre-rendered route. They can just do /1 and they'll get the pre-rendered version, because the CDN should be able to detect these routes. So if we look at how these routes are being stored to your file system, it's inside of dist, the name of your application, and browser. And here are our routes. So 1/index.html, 2/index.html. So a CDN, if you store these files in a CDN, it'll see that, oh, this user wants /1, and we have a folder called /1 with index.html in it. It should be able to serve that route by itself. users won't have to worry about going to /index.html, because then, yeah. Yeah, so we have the problem here now is we have 800 routes that we want to pre-render. And if we wanted to put them all here, that would be kind of unreasonable. That's like non-feasible. It's just going to be a huge mess to put 800 routes here. So the solution that we came up with is you can actually point to a route file. And in our case, I have one defined here. And this is just 800 routes, just /1/2, all separated by new lines. Very, very simple. And yeah, it's just 1 through 800 for this application. And if I point to it, just using a relative path, routes file.txt, I can now run the command npm run prerender. Again, the build is linear time, but the pre-rendering is going to be super quick. Actually, when we were developing this, it was part of the scope to make everything parallel. So you'll see the routes get spit out in a jarbled kind of fashion. And that's because everything is being rendered in parallel to make this as efficient as possible. So we'll give this a second to build, and then I'll spin up the server and we'll see 800 routes. Yeah, so it's 800 routes rendered in a matter of seconds. So if you have 10,000 static pages, let's say you have a blog that has 10,000 just text files pretty much that you can just render at build time, that should be easy for this. And I'm sure that there are many, many use cases for this. And now I want to do npm run serve SSR just to show. I can go all the way to 800/index.html. And we'll see this page was pre-rendered with NgUniversal. So yeah, that's how you would use this. That's how you would debug with this to make sure that your pages are actually being pre-rendered. The last thing that I want to mention, I mentioned earlier about guest parser, and I forgot to mention one small detail. If you don't want the pre-render builder to be guessing your routes, you can simply turn that off by using guess routes false. And that'll disable that feature. I know it's not always great to have the tool try to predict the developer's movements. So very easy to disable. And that's pretty much it for the pre-render builder. I hope that at this point you've found a good use case for this tool, or for some of these tools for server-side rendering, pre-rendering. I hope that it fits for your application, and if it does, please let me know. Let the Angular team know, at us on Twitter. And thank you so much for joining me for this talk.
Thank you very much, Wagner, for that great talk. That was really exciting to hear about how the new features of Angular Universal, you can so easily and so quickly pre-render routes. And also the hot reload, code reload would definitely be a good developer experience. So thank you very much for showing us the demos too. So now we're gonna switch to the next section of our meetup. And so next we have got the quiz coming up. I'm not quite sure where, okay, there you are, Sherry. So are you ready to introduce the next section of the meetup, Sherry?
Definitely. And thanks again, Wagner, for a fantastic presentation and all the cool demos that you showed us. I personally learned a lot. Thank you. And yes, the next section is the Kahoot quiz that we have. We wanted to have a little bit of more interaction and fun. That's why that we came up with this idea. So Ashmita, can you tell us how actually to join to this one?
Okay, so on the screen there, you see how to join the Kahoot. We have a few simple steps. So if you could all go ahead and visit www.kahoot.it, so that's KAHOOT.it, and enter this game pin. It is 68560. So I think we can see there's one player already.
Yeah.
Which is great. The once you you can enter a fun nickname. So do you have any suggestions on how to make the nicknames fun, Sherry?
Yes, if you ask me, is that of course it's emoji. I mean, you can be unicorn maybe when you join here. So
That's a very good idea. I do like to use emojis. Okay, so I think we have 3 players joined, 4 players. So we will just wait to let more people join in. And in the meanwhile, is there anything else we should mention about how to play this game?
yes, there is one thing is that you should keep in mind that there will be a little bit of delay to live stream on YouTube. So when Shnita is reading the quiz, you might already see a couple of actually based on the question, the numbers on the screen, because the whole concept is that there will be a question and there will be some answers below, and those answers, they have different colors as well, and then the matching colors, you will see it on your phone and you should pick it up. So one tip is that be fast, because you get more point as you answer faster. And the other thing is that keep have that delay in your mind, and also don't be too quick before you know it that way, because that happens to me as well. Sometimes I'm too fast.
Yeah. Okay, I think one more thing to mention perhaps is that the players won't actually see the questions. So the questions will be displayed on the screen that we're sharing, and I will read out the questions and the answers, but to read it quickly yourself, look at the screen that we're sharing. And I think that's pretty much all the information you need to be able to play. So I'm not sure if for how long we should wait. We have 4 players. I'm not entirely sure if
We can give 10 seconds. We can
yeah.
have a countdown. So
Okay.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So let's go.
Okay, let's start this. NgUniversal. Okay, let's see. Here we are. What is NgUniversal? It is a toolkit for preloading lazy-loaded modules, server-side rendering and pre-rendering, running CLI builders, or running CPU-intensive computations in a background thread. What do you think, Sherry?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I like a red. Maybe I want to go for red just because I like the color. So
I think Wagner did mention something about pre-something. Was it preloading, pre-rendering?
you're Ragnar as well. So I
Would
guess
you like?
my red was not the correct one. So maybe Ragnar, you can elaborate a little bit here.
Yeah, so that's what Angular Universal was designed for, was server-side rendering. That's been a staple of the toolkit from the beginning. And pre-rendering was added in with version 9. That was my major contribution to the team.
Ah, that's great. Good to know.
Thanks for that then. Okay, are you ready for the next question? Okay, well, right. So we get to see who was the quickest. So we have Chris as the fastest. And not too far behind is Miguel. And then Wagner's also on there, and you didn't answer.
That's interesting. I actually am not playing. I wish I could share my screen right now. I'm not playing, I promise. So somebody joined in with my name. That's hilarious.
Oh, that's very tricky, and it's quite
And
funny.
random. I like to know who random is.
Yeah, I do like the nicknames too. Okay, let's go to the next question. Why use server-side rendering then? Because it helps to show the first page quickly, improve performance for weaker devices, facilitate web crawlers, or all of the above. What do you think, Sherry?
I just love the cat. I guess cat is confused.
I think I got quite happy, sort of carried away creating the questions and went ahead and added the pictures. Okay, so of course, as Wagner explained, it is all of the above. But would you like to add some more to elaborate anything more here, Wagner?
No, I think that's all pretty straightforward. These are the three main benefits to using the NgUniversal toolkit.
Brilliant. Okay, let's see how we're doing on the scoreboard. Chris is still the fastest, and then Miguel. Great, well done, guys. Let's go to the next question. So, how do we install Angular Universal? It's a bit mouthful to read, but I will try. So, do we use ng update at Angular Universal /express engine, npm run build SSR, ng add my universal project name, ng add at ng universal express engine. That took a while to read.
I again like your picture.
I think this might have been a little bit tricky one, and I'm not sure if there should have been two correct answers. What do you think, Wagner?
Yeah, so I could see how somebody would accidentally choose ng update at NgUniversal, but that command is more for somebody who already has the schematic installed but wants to update to the latest features. Ng add at NgUniversal is what would give you the schematic from scratch.
Right, so that's the difference. If you already have a version installed, to just update the version, you'll use ng update. That makes sense. Okay, let's see the next question. I keep missing this, actually. The scoreboard is next, and it is really exciting to see who's leading. So Chris is at the very top. Does that mean he's the fastest, Sherry? Or?
Yes. Fastest and answering correctly, and then Miguel is on fire.
Brilliant.
So you should be careful.
That's great. Great job. Let's see the next question. All right, so what are the new features in Angular Universal? Live code reloading and pre-rendering, strict mode for template type checking, I can't really remember, or binding to CSS custom properties. What's your pick this time, Sherry?
I can't remember.
Fair enough, fair enough. Do you like cats in the picture?
Even though that I'm a dog person.
I did have a feeling that you might be. Okay.
This time my red is a correct one, so that's good.
Okay, all right. So it is. Do you know what? When I see red and I associate it with having the answer incorrect, and I was like, oh, but that is the right answer. Why is it ticked? Why is it red? It must be things from, like, I don't know, primary school, when you get marked in red and it's wrong. But in this case, red is the correct answer. So do you want to elaborate on that, Wagner?
No, I believe that's straightforward. Like, these are the two new features that we came out with in version 9.
Yeah. That's what you showed in the demo. It's really good to see. All right, so how are we doing in the scoreboard? It's looking good. Very good. Next question is the true and false question. So the live code reloading is server-side rendering automatically recompiles client and server bundles. Is it true or false? The live code reload in SSR automatically recompiles client and server bundles. What do you think, Sherry?
I love
Any
the
guesses?
dog.
I wonder if the pictures there more for distraction, really.
You did a great job for me, at least.
Brilliant. Let's see the scoreboard.
Ooh.
Wow, Chris is really fast and he's on fire. And well done, everybody. Wagner's still not playing.
I'm starting to think that earlier I logged in on Kahoot and then didn't like play. I exited the browser.
No worries. No worries. Prerendering generates and saves static pages to the file system at build time. Is it true or false? So pre-rendering generates and saves static pages to the file system at build time. Sounds like something pre-rendering would do, wouldn't it? Let's see. It is true. I wonder if all the questions are true. And once again, we have Chris, the fastest. All right, so are you ready for the next question? Routes that can be cached as static files are great candidates for pre-rendering. Is this true or is this false? Do you like that picture now?
So then it should be true.
It may be maybe it's like which way is the picture looking? That's looking at the right answer. Maybe it's a hint. Okay, and of course it's true. All right, Chris is really fast at this. Well done. So now we are on to question 8. We define the routes to pre-render in angular.json file using prerender builder. Is this true or false? Any guesses?
It's a family name. The cat doesn't look happy, so it might not be true.
It must be the cat sofa. And of course, it is true. We can, yeah. Is there anything you want to add to this or explain further, Wagner?
Yeah, I guess this question does seem like a bit of a trick question because you can also define routes in the routes file. But of course, you're pointing to that file from angular.json. But yeah, I could see how this could trick somebody easily.
Brilliant. Thanks for clarifying that. Okay, I think we have only 2 more questions left. Let's see.
So, scoreboard.
Okay, again, we have Chris. You're on fire. Let's see. Okay, what is the command to pre-render routes? Is it npm run dev SSR, npm run serve SSR, npm run pre-render, or none of the above?
I like this question.
It's kind of a leading question, I suppose. with some things to trip you up with all those commands.
The interesting thing is those are real commands. with NgUniversal.
Yeah. It just sounds very easy. Just type in prerender.
And the
Brilliant. The scoreboard's looking very good. Thank you very much, everybody, for playing and having a go.
Wait. This one is the last question. So
Last
be
question.
fast.
Nearly done. Okay. If I have 500 routes to pre-render, it is best to define them in the routes array of pre-render builder or the routes file of pre-render builder. And we have
I might have given this away earlier.
So now we need to have a drum roll because now we are going to see the final
winner. Yay!
So, ready, all of you?
Shall we do it? Let's go ahead.
Drum roll! And the winner is? The third place go to Opener. So congratulations. And the second goes to Miguel. And the first place goes to
Chris.
No surprise
yes,
there.
Well done. This is such a fun game, and I'm so pleased that you took part. We had fun making this, and I hope it's sort of provided a refresher for what we learned from Wagner's talk, and really a lot of fun. So thank you very much for playing. And I don't know if you are in Reading and you'd like to come up to me at meetups when we are back to normal and meeting in a venue, you can claim some Google swag from me for taking part in the quiz. So keep that in mind.
And I would say that to all of us. Whenever next time that you see each of us, you come to us, and we definitely will give you some cool stickers at least.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we did want to make this really fun, sort of more kind of engaging and interactive. So as I mentioned earlier, it's really the very first time that I am hosting an online, anything like online sort of setup. So it's been a big learning experience for me, and I've had help from Sherry List, who has been co-hosting, and she is coming from Copenhagen, the GDG group from Copenhagen chapter, and also organizer of NG Vikings. And so she has pretty much helped me to set up on this online broadcast. So I feel like, you know, I would love to do this again. So if people have got topics they would like to listen, hear about on Angular, and or even if you would like to give a talk yourself because you think this is fun and you like to share your knowledge as well, I would you know, really encourage people to give your feedback on how we can improve. Any comments you would like to pass on to Wagner as well, in terms of how much you appreciate his talk or anything like this. What else? Yeah, so another thing I want to mention also is you probably see a theme here. Whichever problems I had, so I realized just only yesterday, I think that Kahoot, the basic membership only allows 3 players. And of course, I wanted to use Kahoot for our sort of fun way of revisiting the topic on server-side rendering and pre-rendering. So when I mentioned to Sherry my problem, she solved it, saying Kahoot actually lets us, while, you know, to encourage more online sort of gathering like what we're having, make it more accessible. They are actually letting us upgrade to premium. So we could have had 2,000 players, I think, if we had so many visitors, but it made it possible that more people could actually join us today. So I'm really glad for all the advice I got from Sherry. And thank you very much, Wagner, for taking the time out from your day. You are, I think, still working at Google right now, right?
Yeah.
So really, really appreciate the time you spent for us, and look forward to meeting you again for more events. Yeah. Is there anything you would like to add, Sherry and Wagner, before we
No,
wrap
it was
up?
just a really big pleasure to be part of this event with you all. And yeah, just thank you to all of you.
Yeah, and I wanted to say a big thank you for inviting me out to give this talk, and I hope that you guys got something out of it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was honestly really learned a lot. I mean, I prepared the question, and even in just trying to prepare it, I learned a lot. And as you talked through things, it's just really exciting when you talk through it. It makes me want to go and try things out and just play with it. So definitely, thank you very much for sharing. Okay, so I think we'll just say thank you to the attendees, to the audience as well, for joining us today and supporting us. Please do give feedback, as I said, and keep an eye out for future events. You can visit our GDGReading meetup site. We do have a machine learning event coming up quite soon. And any future Angular meetups I will post there as well. So thank you very much, and bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.